towards the one, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of guidance. Amen. Okay, so hopefully this will be some useful information for those of you on the call and those of you who will find this recording later who weren't able to join us in person. So the first specific detail question about the Cherag training is the frequency of meetings, the day, the time, the length of the meetings, etc. So there is one monthly meeting that is required. It is Saturday mornings for you. It's Saturday 10 o'clock in the morning for me, Mountain. It's currently daylight time, but it does change to Mountain Standard Time for part of the year, and we just go with what is my 10 o'clock because I'm very selfish. So for Pacific time that changes daylight to standard, it'll be 9 a.m. on Saturday mornings. That's both for the required meetings, which I'm pretty sure is going to be on the second Saturday of the month, and then the optional meeting will be on the fourth Saturday of the month. So they're offset. Every so often, I need to change things because of my travel or something else comes in that is really that I can't change, and then I will usually move it by a week to a different Saturday morning. But it seems like that time frame, people can get pretty consistent about planning other commitments around that. The meetings are an hour and a half, 90 minutes, 1.5 hours, and those meetings tend to be, for the required meetings, most of them will start with a check-in from each of the people in the cohort. That is a review of the past unit, a summary, any remaining questions. So really getting a sense of where each person is in the process. And then there will be usually a half hour to 45 minutes of that time will be me giving the instructions for the next unit. It is not really it's not a class. It's not like a lecture. I don't do PowerPoint presentations. It's really, I introduce the subject matter for the coming unit. I give resources. There are always an assigned set of practices, like daily personal practices that are aligned with or somehow open up the unit for that we're exploring at that time. And and I give, like, here are some things that you can read, some things you can watch, some things you can listen to, some field trips you can do, some conversations you can have, things that you can create either individually or in small groups. So I give all of that instruction as part of that required meeting. The second meeting is also 90 minutes, same time of day, same Saturdays. And that one is an informal, almost always, it's an informal conversation time. I am present for them to answer questions and facilitate conversation. But it's much more interactive, and people are just in the midst of their process for that month and sharing about their experience, sharing things they've discovered, things they found interesting, things they're confused about, or and then sometimes those things are more questions to me that I end up answering. And if there are things that feel relevant for the whole group, I'll make recordings of those and send them out to the people that aren't present for those. So that's like the formal engagement time. But there is, like I said, daily practices. And sometimes there will be units that I'll say, every week, please post a reflection about this, or here's like the rhythm of how to manage the assignment for the month. Or so the time commitment that is spread out over the month varies widely from unit to unit. Okay. Uh, then I would love to hear from some of you who are currently in training or who have completed the training. What has your sense been about the time engagement, and how does that fit into the rhythms of your daily life? Has it felt manageable, not enough, too much? What's your direct experience of time and expectations through the program? So I won't call on you by name. You know who you are, and you can just jump in and say what you wish when you're ready. Zahira. I did call you by name, but because I saw your hand, not.
Something with the time. Um, I really liked the fact that it was once a month and then having that monthly like mid check-in as an optional. Just meeting something that like with I mean, I love the fact that it is a month with each unit. And because each of the topics are so rich, like I've noticed myself kind of like what Parvati said, like wanting to like deepen into that because each unit itself holds so much that it's like I could see myself doing like 2 or 3 months for each unit itself. But I do like the once a month with the mid unit check in, and the mid unit check in is really nice because it's not mandatory, and if you're having questions and wanting to hear other people's experiences, it's really helpful. So yeah.
Yep, I agree with Zahira. I especially enjoyed, I think it was the first 6 months that we did that was more history of different religious paths. That was very fascinating. And I highly encourage everyone to attend the mid-month check-in. It was very, very important to us. And I think we only missed once in 2 years, and it was the best. Um, yes, it's a lot of work, but it's so worth it. And there's so much support from Sara and from the other people in your group. It's just a real joy.
And adding on that, or not adding on it, I guess more supporting the same thing. If you decide to take the training, I really encourage you to do the non-mandatory second meeting, because that's when we just get together and talk. And it's while Sara does come in too, she leaves plenty of option for the rest of us, and we're the ones talking the most. And that has a great deal of meaning when we're bantering back and forth about what we've done, what we've learned, and that sort of thing. I have a background in a lot of the things we studied, and this went well beyond. As a college professor, I taught death and dying classes, marriage and family. There's still gobs of things that were very worthwhile learning in here.
And so I'll just add that, like everything, you get out of it what you put into it. So there you go. And Sara will, she's, I just want to say a plug for her, that, how should I say, she's very detail oriented and she gives a lot of offerings, and it's usually more than even a person can really do. But there's I think the first 4 months, every time we came on, everybody would say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry I didn't do that, I'm sorry I didn't do that. And Sarah kept saying, stop saying you're sorry, really. I mean, you're going to get out of it what you put into it, and there's a lot of offerings to dive deep into all the different religions. And then also what wasn't mentioned is um, the retreat that happens in the in person. And that's, I felt, now I wasn't able to go to those mid meetings because I had another commitment at 9 o'clock on Saturdays, and I was like skipping one of those to do this and skipping those and I wound up dropping the other thing really, because the mid meetings that I did attend, I felt were really good, but I didn't start with that until much like, like maybe 3 months ago. So also, I felt like the people that were able to make that in person uh, retreat that we did in December in Colorado in the Rocky Mountains really bonded us in a way. I felt like everything shifted after that, and that doesn't happen until a year into it because Zoom can be so impersonal. And there were many people that live in Colorado that were chumming up, but all the satellite people were bonded more, I think, after that retreat. So.
I think I saw a Temis Waduda unmute for a moment. Was that on purpose, Temis? Would you like to share anything?
No, I was actually just switching to phone. Thank you.
I guess
Anything
on the
from you?
last one. um, yeah, it's in the first go around, I don't think we started that mid-month meeting until partway through. Someone had requested it because she was having a hard time getting on the forum. And the forum is beautiful and can be a great way to communicate with your other folks, but it also, is a lot of reading and writing that can be interesting. But this mid-month one really helps with just being able to have that conversation with each other live time. And so that was definitely, I think, helpful. So we had the forum and the mid-month meeting, which are both great in their different ways. So I hope, and again, you get out of it what you put into it. So yeah, and the retreats are really beautiful and great way to connect, obviously in person in a totally different way, and doing practices together. And yeah, so it didn't feel like too much having two Saturday mornings to connect. But
Sweet. Okay. Oh, Samia, go ahead, friend.
I just want to add, I've been on the Sufi path since 1989, and a lot of the recommended practices that we do, if you're also practicing, you're already doing. So it's not an extra thing. It may be more of a focus on this month and on that month. So even though it's a lot, if you're already practicing, you're already doing a lot of it. Thanks.
Thank you, Samia. Yeah, I try to shape the daily practices that are part of the assignment each month. I aim to have them like 5 to 10 minutes of practice. So it's not like sit and meditate for an hour. It's like contemplate these phrases or these prayers, or chant something in this tradition, or work with this particular wazifa or zikr phrase, or do this walking practice or this darood concentration. So, and it depends on the unit, but I aim for 5 to 10 minute of daily practice assignment. So manageable, I hope. Okay. Next theme. You ready for the next theme? Is a question about the spiritual counseling aspect of Cherag work. So this is a little bit, it's very simple, and it's also complicated. So the simple thing is that Cherags are spiritual leaders. Cherags are ministers. They are ordained clergy in a particular church organization. It is a legal entity and an empowerment and a responsibility that is given by a specific organization. In this case, the organization is Sarati Anayat Interfaith Sufi Path. That's the name of the church and the Sufi order that is the container, the vehicle for this training, and that is legally responsible for determining someone's appropriateness and preparedness for spiritual leadership. So, spiritual leadership includes being available to someone's community. And that means for community, like group activities like universal worship service, that it can be an ongoing rhythm of specific services, ceremonies, prayers, practices that are facilitated for a group of people. And it also means that you're available on an as needed basis when people come to you and ask for someone to officiate the memorial service for a family member who has died, or for a wedding for themselves, or for a loved one or someone that they know they they have people who are looking for an officiant for their wedding, and you're an excellent person because they like you and think you're cute, then then you go, yes, I can do that. And also for house blessings or whatever specific needs arise. Now, another piece of that is that people in the community will absolutely come to an ordained Cherag for spiritual counsel, for support and personal guidance, encouragements, perspective, insights, practices, blessings, forgiveness, a compassionate witness, someone who can just hear about their life experience and what's unfolding in their spiritual life. And a Shirag is someone that is a natural magnet, a draw, a safe, comfortable, prepared, skillful person that individuals will go to for help. So pastoral care includes counseling people as needed. And it is not psychotherapy. It is not a counseling degree. It does not give anyone a credential as a certified, licensed psychotherapist or psychologist, or that's a very different category that, at least in the United States, there are all kinds of ways that the government regulates different practices and licenses and permissions to provide certain services. So it's it is a very distinct line, and it is also very wiggly. That there are, you know, in the order of the hierarchy of like official, legally regimented practices in the United States, you could say the top of that echelon will be a psychiatrist. That is somebody who has mental health training and is also a medical doctor. And that licensure is so far beyond the scope of what a Shirag does, because it includes the ability to prescribe medications or to put someone into a medical care facility for treatment for very serious issues. A Shirag is nothing at all like a psychiatrist. Then I'm going to put this in a hierarchy, even though it's not really. Then there's a psychologist, which is also a doctorate level training and education for mental health care, that is not able to prescribe medication, but has a doctorate level of training and education for providing help in the mental health realm. Then there is a psychotherapist, which is a licensed master's degree counselor that has master's degree level of training, education, and practice in the mental health field. That So all of those things. A Shirag is not any of those things. A Shirag is a minister that is empowered and blessed through a church that does not require university level credentialed training. It requires the confidence, the faith, the blessing, and the endorsement of a church entity. So that does include providing counsel in a spiritual capacity. That's different from a psychotherapist providing mental health counseling. However, at the same time, people will come to a Shirag and ask for help around themes of depression, anxiety, conflict in the family, grief, especially after a loss that is not necessarily a death. It could be a loss of a divorce, a loss of a job, an illness or injury that limits someone's physical capacity. So, and it also includes people coming with a crisis of faith, with a spiritual emergency, with a dark night of the soul. And all of these things fall within the realm of the care, the caring heart, and the capacity of a Shirag to be able to hold a compassionate space, to listen skillfully, to provide wise counsel, hopefully, and some support and insight, and also to be able to refer people when necessary for more acute mental health care. So, did that answer your question about spiritual counseling as a Shirag? Okay, so, okay, then Next question on your theme. Oh, are there any of you who are ordained Cherags in particular, or that have particular expertise in the realm of spiritual counseling and the work of a Cherag? Any of you like to add anything, or your own experience or understanding about those realms? Kabir? Rahima?
I'm not. Yeah, go ahead, Rahima.
Kabir, you first, because you're both reluctant, and we heard your voice first. Kabir? We'll come back.
My experience is, as soon as you're asked to officiate whatever ritual, celebration, blessing, funeral, wedding, baptisms, or whatever, it's always a sort of spiritual counseling. If you start talking to the people, if you start opening your heart, if you really listen, and if you find, or if you try to find ways to make it, to weave together what wants to be woven together. So I'd say even, and I mean, I started the whole thing even without sort of, okay, knowing that there's a spiritual counseling involved. So it's just, I think it's the awareness of the Cherag that is very important to the awareness of it is a holy space that you're stepping into, be it a universal worship, be it a wedding, a funeral, whatever. It's a holy space, and people are trusting you, handing over this space to you. So it's even not knowingly, or even not unconsciously, it's a spiritual consulting. It's a spiritual support, I'd call it. Yeah. Thank you, Rahima.
Thank you, Kabir. Excellent addition.
Yeah, very nice, Kabir. Thank you. I just want to add on for my own personal, like, awareness and comfort in the fact that, yes, this being available for spiritual counsel, and for myself, I tend to be a really good listener, and I feel like I could offer some support in this holy space of whatever's needed, and also to be very comfortable with referring people out if it feels like beyond what I feel like I can handle, and just being fully honest about that. And because there is that wiggly line, and I'm definitely not as comfortable in that counseling realm, especially if it starts to move into more mental health. And so just having resources of where you can refer people to is important for me.
Awesome. I will add specifically about the program. Samia, I'm going to add something and then we'll come over to you. So in the program, there are several units where I give lots of instructions and suggestions and perspective about very sensitive things or skills that are needed for addressing things around death, dying, suicide, illness, like how to work with people skillfully while shaping these services that you will provide as a Cherag. So there's a lot of those things. There's a unit specifically on counseling, listening skills, communication skills, that is a lot of resources and practices that I suggest, encourage, instruct for everyone to engage in to strengthen those skills and to be aware of one's own natural capacities in those ways and limitations and triggers and reactivities and things within ourselves that need healing in order to tend to others in a skillful, conscientious way. And there's something else about that too, but I forgot what it was. So, Samia.
That's basically what I was going to address anyway. As a mental health occupational therapist, and also as a hospice worker, the things that we learn in this training just align so well with my training and my experience, especially with death and dying. It was just fabulous. I can't say enough about that part of the training. Thanks.
Oh my gosh, Samia and Salim, people are going to think I paid you to be here to advocate for the program and for me. You're so nice to me. Thank you. And I think you're sincere. I'm not paying them to be here, y'all. I didn't pay that actually, they pay me to be here. Okay. So, I have a quick answer about the retreat and then another question for the group. So, when is the retreat? Someone put this in the chat window. The retreat is the first weekend of December. And this is a yearly retreat that this coming year, right now, like coming up in a month and a half, all of you are invited to come to this retreat if you would like to be a part of it. It will be the ordination retreat for the cohort that is currently completing the training program. So it's on my website right now. You can see details about where it is and how much it costs. And so that's what this one will be focused on, but everyone is welcome to be. I mean, it's not open to the public to sign up for it yet. Right now, it's the people who are finishing the program, people who have already been ordained, and people who are aiming toward joining the cohort in January. And also the people who are being ordained, they are welcome to invite one of their beloveds to be there for the retreat. So, and there will be, for the ordination ceremony itself, which will be a Sunday morning, it's the first Sunday morning of December. That will be open to more people from the community that want to come to be a part of that ordination ritual. So, okay. And that will happen each year. I think we have mapped out for the rest of eternity that the first weekend of December will be a Cherag and spiritual direction retreat that will combine those things, because they're the trainings that I'm offering for spiritual leadership, and it's the easiest thing for me. So that's when the retreat is. The next question is, where does this program take a person into the future for service? So I would love to hear from any of you who are currently Cherags or who are doing the training and starting to see how it is taking shape into your service in the world. And then I'll give a big wide open answer of possibilities. So where does it take you potentially into the future of service?
I'm just going to jump in and just say to be determined. Seriously. I mean, God unfolds us in a step-by-step manner, right? And so I follow spirit, and I'm already doing a lot of the work in the things I'm already doing, which I'm a body worker. I lead kirtan, and I'm a Dances of Universal Peace leader, and I'm an astrologer. So all four of those things, I'm already doing a lot of it anyway. So, but I'm not doing ceremony. So I would say if there's anything that's going to be added to what I'm not doing, it's probably the ceremonial aspect of it. And I'm not sure about that. We'll see. To be determined.
Great, thank you, Parvati. Sami and Salim, did I see you leaning in to add your own answer to that?
Did you?
Yeah, I agree with Parvati. Who knows? Right now we're retired and we're traveling. We live in our motorhome. For me, the part that most attracted me was also the ritual part. So I don't know where it'll go, but I would guess it would involve ritual for me too.
Well, actually, both of you said what I was going to say, but I will add that I don't care where it goes. That's but well, seriously, that's not part of what's important to me, because my whole life has worked that way. I planned almost nothing, in my life, and it's worked out wonderfully. And many of the things I had planned never happened. I mean, I didn't even plan on going back to college at the age of 44. I just woke up one morning and said, it's time to start college. And I drove down to the nearest community college, and the next day classes started. So I was in a classroom, totally bewildered, and that's what my life is. So it's not particularly important to me where it goes, but it felt right to be there to do it.
Also, in the very beginning, Sarah told us that we're welcome to be here just for our own personal spiritual growth. And that has definitely happened.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
it goes nowhere else, that's perfectly fine. We're thrilled with what's happened at this point. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, as
So,
always. Javier.
yeah, I think I can add to that, just to experience the own holy inner space more and more and more. It's not only the holy spaces or rooms that you create for others or hold for others. It's just like the inner capacity, the inner light, whatever that is, to get more and more in connection and in a trustful feeling with that, with your own inner holy space. And for me, a very always soothing aspect is just like the idea of how many Cherags are there in the world, and no matter how big or small or whatever their contribution is to a community, they're still there, aligned to their own inner light, to the bigger light. And I just love to see this web of lights around the globe. And the more lights there are, yeah, the brighter it will get, and maybe the easier, who knows.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kabir.
I'd like to jump in real quick, if I may, just to plug what Salim and I mentioned his name earlier because when he speaks about this, that's why a big reason why I'm here today is the way Salim, when what he just said, and knowing that Sarah supports that it doesn't have to be, you're not expected to go out and start your own church or start having universal worship services every week or any of that. And then what Kabir just said as well, that's also a part of it for me. And that's why I really come to this now with a lot of confidence, and there's really no question of me doing this or not. I'm yeah, just need to fill out the form.
Thank you, Salim. And thank you, Salim, for inspiring Salim. All right, Rahima, you want to add anything?
I feel like it's all been said so beautifully, but yeah, just I feel like where it's led me so far is just a deepening into that light that's within, and where that light can shine in every moment, whether you're doing a service or holding a particular sacred space, or holding a universal worship service. I do feel like I've come out a lot more from my it's easier for me to stay in the background and just create the space more physically, maybe. But yeah, it's challenged me to do more in the public and offering services, and it feels like I've been called to do that, and somehow going through this training has given me more of the confidence to do it, and skill set and inspiration.
Beautiful. Thank you. Lisa.
Just real quickly, my time has come to an end. I'm so sorry about that, but I have something I'm supposed to be at right now. But I also want to say that this all just resonates with me so deeply, and I love the idea of just being open and receptive and willing, ready surrendered to the guidance that you receive, to go and serve in the way that is yours to do or mine to do. And so thank you, everyone. And I really enjoyed this and to being a part of this conversation. And I got to go. So
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Lots of love. Blessings on your day. Talk to you soon.
thank you. Thank you.
All right. So, oh, Zahira.
Something I do want to add too, it's not the same as Rahima, but I can tell, like, so I'm now the Mu'alim of the kinship ray, and something that I think helped is doing the Cherag training. Like, a lot of this stuff makes me really nervous. Like, getting out there and being seen and like pushing myself into positions of leadership or just hosting or facilitating. And honestly, I'm not sure I would have said yes to agreeing to be the Mu'alim if I hadn't done the Cherag training. And I think what happened is the Cherag training has pushed me in a lot of different ways, where it's like looking at how I can challenge myself to step more into myself, and looking at like passions and not letting fear hold me back quite as intensely. And so that is something that the Cherag training has really given me in a lot of different ways. And all of this stuff does, I mean, I still get nervous and a little bit weird sometimes, but I mean, it's just like exposure, like doing it enough times, I am noticing that it's getting a tiny bit easier. And so that's something that the Cherag training absolutely has given me, is those opportunities for growth. And yeah, coming more into myself and whatever it is I want to offer. So, and creating a safe container in which I can do that. So there's that too.
So beautiful. Thank you, Zahira. Salim.
And I do have to add that we can see the difference over the years in both Sahira and Rahima in the confidence levels. Both of you two are just blossoming so beautifully. And it's a real delight to see that. And while I'm at it, Tatiana, you do not need to apologize for your English at all. You're very understandable, and it's a whole lot better than my Russian, I might add, which is limited to the invocation and a few simple words like "da." So we're delighted that you're doing it and you're speaking. So, and I love all of you. This is so cool. Thank you, Sarah, for doing this and inviting us just so we can add more people to the circle of love.
Salim, you're outrageous in so many good ways. Thank you. All right, so just a little time update. I'm anticipating being on here for another 10 minutes, and then I'm going to go on to other things in my day. So I want to make sure that you have your needs and desires met. And I have an answer for you about where does this training potentially take you in the future. And I'm totally with Salim. Who cares? No, I'm just kidding about that. It is so widely varied. And honestly, so many people that jump into this training do not need the training at all. That so many people, they are already, like I would say, you are already a Cherag. You are already a vessel for light. You are already an interfaith, inclusive, tolerant, loving, inspiring human being doing the service that is yours to do in the world. And that this program can instill within many people a greater sense of not just confidence or like a comfort with their own leadership, but also there's there's a great power that is tricky to understand, that's complicated to understand, that is a validation and a legitimacy that a lot of people are really hungry for. Whether it's not because God needs them to have some outer verification for what they do, but it's because there's a natural it's kind of funny because it happens most strongly in people who are very humble and very honorable about their service in the world. And the honesty, the authenticity, and the humility sometimes expresses itself as an uncertainty or an unworthiness or a doubt about whether it's ours to do. And doing a training that is a lot of very specific information and a ground of practices and the integrity of the scope of preparation can just instill within people a greater sense of validity, that what I'm doing is valid, and that it's not my ego motive that is inspiring me to do this, that it is acknowledged and blessed by an entity outside of myself that I have confidence in, that I trust, that I respect. And that's a participation in a community of service and an intention that was shaped long before we were born, and that has been held in a human form, in human society. So it's not an elusive conceptual idea. It's a ground of information and encouragement and blessing that is given through, in this case, in this moment, it's Sarati Anayat. And through Sarati Anayat, it is attuned to the message that was given by Piro Murshid Hazrat Inayat Khan. And it is attuned to the vision that he carried and the Sufi message that he shared with humanity for his life of teaching, inspiration, and really clear, luminous guidance. So there's a power presence that is available that is not about the ego structure, but that taps into a field of wisdom and love, harmony, and beauty that we want to allow to flow through us for the benefit of humanity. And that's what Cherag training can provide. There's in my personal experience, because I also went through a Cherag training, and the reason that I did that was because I was already functioning as a minister in a lot of ways in my community. And I wanted to lead the universal worship service. And because I love the universal worship service and I love the message of it. I love the beauty of it. I love the inclusivity and the essence of it. And I asked my teacher at that time, like, I want to lead the universal worship service. And I thought that there would be an immediately like, yeah, go ahead. But there wasn't. It was, well, you need to be a Cherag. I was shocked about that. I was a naive teenager. I wasn't quite a teenager, but basically, personality wise, I was a teen. I still am. But the instruction I got was, okay, so train to be a Cherag. And I was surprised that there was actually a training for it. I had no idea. I just didn't know that. I just didn't know. And so when I realized that that was actually a formal preparation, and it's not an arbitrary system because of an authoritative organization. It's because that's what Murshid said. It's because Murshid said, this is the service that is the universal worship service in the church of all. He called it the church of all, and that ordained ministers, ordained Cherags, are prepared and blessed to do this service. So he shaped this. He didn't shape this specific training program, but he did shape a specific preparation for people to be able to hold the position of responsibility and blessing and attunement to the master saints and prophets to be able to provide this service to their communities. So there's a tradition to be honored and respected and loved and celebrated through a Cherag's work. Okay, your other question here is, what is the cost? The actual cost of the program for this coming cohort is $50 per month. And I am flexible about that in that I understand people's life circumstances. And for some people, that's so nominal, it's dismissive. And for some people, that's a real hardship. So I work with people to make it accessible in whatever ways you need. But the basic requirement is $50 a month. And and if it's going to be different than that for any individuals, I ask for you to make a specific agreement with me. Like whatever amount is workable for you is fine, but I want you to communicate that with me directly so that we both know and it's held in an honorable way. Then I want to be very honest about this also. So that's the monthly thing. The retreat is a separate cost, and we base that very specifically on the cost of the retreat facility rental and food. And so if you're coming for any of the retreats, I want you to plan to budget that to make sure that that's reasonable for you. And that will include whatever your travel expenses are to get here. So please budget that in. And well, I make very, very few materials are required cost in the program as far as like books or things that you would need to buy and equip yourself with. There are some things. There's one book in particular that is very, very required that is Houston Smith's World Religions. And while I say that, most people are going to want to go buy the book. I do have a PDF of it that I can give you for free. That is the whole thing as a digital file. But for a lot of people, you don't want to read things on the computer and you want to actually hold a book. So there are a lot of books that I will recommend. None of them are required except for that one that you really do need to have. And everything else is like, for each unit, I might suggest 2 or 3 books that you can read if you want to. But almost all of them you can find free digital PDF versions, and I give lots of resources for those things. So you might want to just figure out what is a reasonable book budget for you. And I think there are 2 people in the current cohort who said, this program is my excuse to buy more books. And like people who just love to buy books and want all the books and love reading, like you can buy a lot of books if you want to. Yeah, thank you. Sami and Salim said Houston Smith is a wonderful book. I would have it anyway. So, what other costs? There are some things that I encourage you to. Oh, there's one, the unit on suicide that is suicide awareness and prevention and specific things that will show up in with the work of a Cherag. There's a training that I highly recommend, which I think it went up in the cost is now maybe it's $100, but I think it. Or maybe it's like there's the cheapest one might only be $50 or $60. You don't have to do that particular training, but I do recommend a specific training that does have a cost associated with it. So I think that's about it. Are there other costs that came up and surprised any of you who have gone through the training? Is that also for a universal worship service, you're gonna need, if you don't already have them, you're gonna need a bunch of candles and an altar cloth and something to light the candles. And so there are some things that you will want to acquire or make happen in your own way, but you can go to a thrift store and get a bunch of candles or whatever. It doesn't have to be a big expense, but those are things you want to just anticipate. You'll want to be able to buy or budget for along the way. Oh, it's 11:15. Did you get your questions answered? Is there anything else that you need to hear or share before we close this Zoom today? Last chance. All right. I hope that it was useful, important, insightful to hear from some of these beloved friends who are already functioning as Cherags or Sirajas. And those of you who are currently in the training, thank you for being here. I know it was an extra moment in your life. I hope it was enjoyable for you to share from your own experience and know that it's a support to other people in their discernment process. Parvati, were you going to add something? Nope. Okay. I'm available for any of you that have more questions or things that come up later. I really want to make sure that you feel well equipped, well informed for your decision makings, and I look forward to being in touch with all of you again soon. Okay. Lots of blessings. Bye, friends.
Thank you.